Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're talking about my Week 17 tight end starter sits for the 2019 fantasy football season. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about all things at the tight end position, starting off with the matchups going into Week 17, who has the most favorable and most difficult matchups at the tight end position, who could potentially take advantage of those matchups. And then we're going to be talking about my top 12 tight end rankings on the week, my tight end ones. Before we begin today's video, if you have not yet already, click that subscribe button, join the community. Also, click the bell notification button to stay up to date on my latest content. And do not forget to click the like button if you like today's video. Thank you very much. Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everyone's doing well. Happy holidays. Okay, so really quickly, I mentioned this a little bit later on in the quarterback video that I posted earlier today, but again, just because it is Week 17 and the fantasy football season is coming to a close, it does not mean that the content on this channel is stopping. Make sure you click the bell notification button to stay up to date. It'll notify you when my latest content is out. We will be doing some content for the NFL fantasy or NFL playoffs and then some fantasy, daily fantasy kind of stuff. So again, stick with us. As soon as the season's over, my job doesn't stop. I'll continue to bring content your direction, and hopefully you'll continue to enjoy it. So thank you again for the support. Anyway, we're going to talk about the tight end position. It's pretty straightforward. The 12 guys that I have to the left of me, I don't think I would really start anybody above them unless something significant was to happen in terms of information coming out regarding the tight end position or an injury of some sort. But either way, I like the guys to the left of me, and they'll probably stay like this going into Sunday unless something changes. But let's go ahead and talk about the matchups and see who truly has the best and most advantageous matchup going into the week. Obviously, anybody who plays against the Arizona Cardinals is good to go. Tyler Higbee would be the one to do that, and or Gerald Everett. But I think Higbee, who has been on an absolute tear, has consistently been producing 7+ receptions and 100+ total receiving yards each of the last 4 games. That's an NFL record, in fact. That's insane. I didn't see it coming. I mean, obviously the matchups are super easy. Arizona, Seattle, Dallas. But San Francisco, even though, yes, they were giving up a bunch of points to tight ends, it was in the touchdown department, not the yard department. But nobody can really stop Rams tight ends at the moment. So either way, he should be good to go. And then we have the Seattle Seahawks, like we mentioned before, George Kittle, good to go. Another one of these elite tight ends in a very good matchup. The Washington Redskins, unless Zach Ertz decides to play, which I don't think he's going to, he would be another elite tight end in a fantastic matchup. This week it'll be Dallas Goedart. He is just as good of a play, in my opinion, because of the matchup and because of how good he is and how much the team uses the tight end position in their offense on a weekly basis. Then we have the Dallas Cowboys matchup. Again, there's not really a tight end for the Redskins that I want to take advantage of. Then we have the Oakland Raiders. That's not a bad matchup. Noah Fant could be a good tight end play this week. Typically, tight ends have succeeded against the Oakland defense. Then we have the matchup with the Tennessee Titans. Darren Fells, not really interested in that, or Jordan Akins. And then we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers matchup. Again, Tampa Bay at times has given up some points to the tight end position. I think, again, this week could be one of those weeks with Austin Hooper coming to town. This is a guy that is finally getting a little bit of momentum in his direction, could continue that in this matchup. And we have the Kansas City Chiefs, not really interested in Hunter Henry very much, considering his contributions as of late. We have the Houston Texans against Jonnu Smith, who is continuously getting more and more opportunity and more usage in this offense as other receivers are beginning to go down with injuries. We have Derrick Henry with that hamstring injury. We have Adam Humphries, who's been dealing with an injury for the last couple of weeks. Corey Davis got a concussion. So there are a lot of guys that are out, and it's presenting more and more opportunity for Jonnu Smith to continue to take his job. Obviously, the fact that he has the opportunity is because of the fact that Delaney Walker, for the second year in a row, has gone to the IR. But again, just keep that in mind. Another one of these good tight end plays, especially guys that could be available in your league already. And then we have the Chicago Bears, who play against the Minnesota Vikings. We always love Minnesota tight ends as long as they're getting opportunities in play action. Obviously, Kyle Rudolph hasn't been as relevant in the last couple of weeks, but hopefully he can turn it on this week. And those are the best matchups. Outside of that, if you have a stud tight end, you're typically going to play them despite the matchup, but those are probably the easiest ones to at least have some trust in. As of late, it's been hard to trust tight end, in extremely good matchups because they have been quite disappointing, but that's just the nature of the position. When we go and we look at the tight end position, I'm not kidding. Jason Witten is a top 12 tight end this season in fantasy half PPR scoring format. Jason Witten, the guy that was literally, he was on the ESPN Monday Night Football crew literally 12 months ago. And now all of a sudden, He's a top 12 tight end in the National Football League. That just tells you the story of the tight end position. Tyler Higbee had 4 games of incredible performances. It has made him a top 8 tight end. He has more points than a guy like Mike Gesicki or Greg Olsen or Kyle Rudolph or Darren Fells, which is insane. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's talk about my top 12 tight ends on the week. Starting off with my number 1, George Kittle, playing against the Seattle Seahawks. Like we mentioned before, they've given up a lot of points to the tight end position, and George Kittle is he's as consistent as they come. He's one of the best tight ends in the National Football League. It does not scare me to play him, no matter what the matchup is. He's a stud, and I don't really need to explain it. It's just plain and simple. George Kittle, he's my number 1. Moving on to number 2, we have Travis Kelce. I love having ownership of a Travis Kelce stock in fantasy, because when he starts turning it on, there's a reason why he's the number 1 tight end this season in terms of fantasy points. Obviously, because he didn't miss a game like a guy like George Kittle or Zach Ertz have in terms of injuries. But the guy since week 10 has been incredible. He's had a 10-point performance each of the last 6 weeks in fantasy. He is scoring points. He is seeing 9+ targets in the last 5 games of the season. I mean, he is really producing like he's the number 1 wide receiver of this offense, because he truly is. He's the number 1 target for Patrick Mahomes. He was his favorite target last season, and he's continuously being that this year. And he's coming on strong late in the season, and that's why we love Travis Kelce. That's why we want to draft him, because we get that for sure tight end every single week. Either way, against the Chargers this week should be fantastic. Last time he played against them, 7 for 92 and a touchdown. Should be great this week. Moving on, Tyler Higbee. The thumbnail is my number 3 again. Like I mentioned, 4 consecutive games of over 100 yards and 7 receptions. I mean, his target counts 8, 11, 14, and 11 once again. Not slowing down. Has only had 1 touchdown, but it was against the Arizona Cardinals, a couple weeks back. So playing against the Arizona Cardinals this week, if he's a full go and he's ready to get out there, and we have Jared Goff, even if it's Blake Bortles at quarterback, I do believe Tyler Higbee will have another great week here. He's my number 3 tight end on the week. Moving on to number 4, we have Dallas Goedart again. With Zach Ertz going down and potentially not playing this week, it does hurt, because Zach Ertz is such a good tight end, and he's one of these elite of the group. It does make it a pretty difficult task. But if Dallas Goedert's available, like we mentioned earlier this week during waiver wire, he needs to be picked up, because again, Dallas Goedart is also a top 12 tight end in half PPR. Imagine having 2 top 12 tight ends on the same team. I mean, the tight end position is so finicky and so inconsistent that you're still having 2 productive monsters on a singular team. Dallas Goedart just last week, 9 receptions, 91 yards, and a touchdown. That's exactly the scores that you want to see from at least a Philadelphia Eagles tight end. We're seeing that. We saw Trey Burton as the number 2 tight end of this offense a couple years back before he went to Chicago, be a relevant number 2 even when Zach Ertz went down. And I think Dallas Goedert's perfectly going to step up in a fantastic matchup against the Washington Redskins. And he should be good to go this week as my number 4. Moving on to number 5, Austin Hooper. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Austin Hooper this past week finally found his step. Against the Jacksonville Jaguars, he picked up exactly where Darren Waller left off, and he had 9 targets, 7 receptions for 82 receiving yards. Finally got a little bit of momentum in his direction. Now he gets to play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. Again, like we mentioned in the past, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, they give up a lot of points to opposing tight ends. Just this past week, sure, Darren Fells only had 4.2 fantasy points, but he had that touchdown. He was down at the 1-yard line. 1 extra step here or there, he scores that. But consistently through the season, they've given up 110 to Greg Olsen, 113 to Evan Ingram. Tyler Higbee went for 41, with Everett going for 44 and a touchdown. Jared Cook went for 44 and 1. Jonnu Smith 78 and 1. Jacob Hollister 37 and 2. 33 and 1 from Jared Cook. Jimmy Graham went for 50. What is that? That's not Jimmy Graham. That's Jaden Graham. Who the heck is Jaden Graham? Right? That's the guy that replaced Austin Hooper those couple weeks back. Went for 53 yards. But again, I really do believe Austin Hooper, as consistent as they get at the tight end position, one of the more talented breakout tight ends this year, hopefully can finish off the season strong in week 17. He's my number 5. Moving on to number 6, Jared Cook. Speaking of being consistent, this is a guy that is unfreaking believable, and he is going to make the difference of why, in my opinion, the Saints are going to win the Super Bowl this year. Having another playmaker that you can rely upon outside of Alvin Kamara, outside of Michael Thomas, having the ability to have Jared Cook in this offense, in an offense that loves to use the tight end position, and having a tight end that's as big as he is 6'7", and is going to make plays over any linebacker or safety, He's just been incredible. Last week had 2 touchdowns, 84 receiving yards on only 3 receptions. This is a guy that is absolutely feasting. Sure, the Carolina matchup is difficult, but the last time he played against Carolina, he went for 699 and 1. I don't think Jared Cook's slowing down. He's my number 6. Moving on to number 7, Jonnu Smith. Like I mentioned before, Jonnu Smith is getting more and more implementation in this offense. And in the last 3 weeks, he's been a 10-plus point fantasy play every single week, scoring touchdowns 2 of the last 3 weeks, and seeing, sure, a basic amount of targets, 4 to 5 targets, but when you're getting them down in the red zone, when it's most valuable, when they don't have to hand the ball off to a Derrick Henry, when everyone's stacking the box, it gives Jonnu Smith more and more of an opportunity to have some fantasy production. And that's exciting to see. So I think this week against Houston, a team that gives up a lot of points to the opposing tight end position, could be another good week for Jonnu Smith. He's my number 7. Moving on to number 8, Jack Doyle. We haven't talked about Jack Doyle since he really had that flub week in week 14, which really hurt a lot of people. But again, the Jacksonville Jaguars in the last couple weeks have been very bad in comparison to a lot of other teams in terms of stopping the tight end position. In the last 2 weeks, they've given up 202 receiving yards. It's been 200 and... is it 200? Yeah, it's 204 receiving yards to the last 2 tight ends that they've played. Darren Waller and Austin Hooper have absolutely dominated them. Those 2 tight ends saw 19 targets and caught the ball 15 times. I really do believe Austin Hooper could be a guy to take advantage of this. Obviously, they want to run the ball against the Jacksonville team, but that's exactly what it does. When you run the ball so effectively against Jacksonville because they cannot stop the run, it presents the value of as soon as they stack the box, you hit them with play action, you find the tight end down the seam, and I hopefully am expecting Jack Doyle to finally have a better week. I mean, we saw him have a couple good weeks once Eric Ebron went down, but really has been inconsistent as of late. Only seeing a handful of targets, hopefully can be decent. Moving on. We have Darren Waller at number 9 again. This might be low for Darren Waller. It may be. Like, you might consider it low, but the inconsistency of Darren Waller kind of attributes to this. I mean, having like a 10-point play, then going to 5, then going to 13, then going to 8, then going to 16, then going to 5. That scares me, right? Having inconsistencies like this and inconsistencies in targets scare me. And obviously the matchup against Denver, it's no joke. It's no blowover matchup where we're just like, all right, they're going to absolutely dominate Denver. No, that's not the case. Denver's a very good defense in terms of stopping the tight end position. So I do believe, okay, there's a possibility that we could see a little bit of a slump week here from Darren Waller, but I'm hoping that comparatively to a lot of these other tight ends, he gets more opportunities and he can present probably a decent value this week. He's broken over 1,000 receiving yards. That is incredible. He's only the 2nd tight end this year to do that, only behind Travis Kelce. He's one of the top. Yes, his matchup isn't great, but he's still a guy that I trust to at least give me that 5-6 points with the upside of having a good week, maybe getting 12, which would be awesome. Moving on. We have O.J. Howard at number 10. O.J. Howard got a little bit of usage last week. It's exciting. And it's good to see. But again, it's O.J. Howard. And he has not been good all season long. And his offense has been very inconsistent. But at least he has seen targets 6, 5, 7, and 7. Those are the last 4 weeks in his target counts. Sure, he's catching about 50% of the passes, getting about 46-plus yards per game on average. But the touchdowns have been very much so absent. And I'm expecting, hopefully, an opportunity in which we can see O.J. Howard maybe step up to the plate this week. And produce. I think there is a very good opportunity that we get a Jameis Winston 4 passing touchdown game. And if that's the case, O.J. Howard's probably going to be one of the guys to catch a passing touchdown and end up as a potential top 5, top 7 tight end. But we leave him at 10 as of right now because the inconsistency and the potential that he's more likely going to get a 7-point play rather than a 14-point play. Moving on. We have our number 11, Noah Fant. Again, like I mentioned earlier, the Raiders have given up a lot of points to opposing tight ends this season. Noah Fant, sure, at times very inconsistent this season, similar to these other guys at the bottom of this list, and especially as of late, has only caught 4 passes in the last 2 weeks. That is nothing that we want to see, and it has a lot to do with just the quarterback play at times. But the Oakland Raiders have been pretty inconsistent to opposing tight ends as of late. Last week, Hunter Henry went for 5 for 45. They've given up touchdowns to Jonnu Smith, Ryan Griffin, Hunter Henry, Darren Fells, Jimmy Graham, Jack Doyle, Eric Ebron, and Travis Kelce. I mean, they're giving up touchdowns to just about almost every tight end that they come in contact with. As of late, they've been a little bit better because the opposing teams don't really heavy target the tight end or use them down in the red zone as often. But again, I do think Noah Fant could be very good. And my last tight end play, you may be wondering, Andrew, where the heck is Mark Andrews? Well, let's be honest. Mark Andrews is dealing with an ankle injury. Also, the Baltimore Ravens are the number 1 seed in the AFC. You have been subject to playing in Week 17, which is unfortunate, which you'll probably never do again, hopefully. But again, Hayden Hurst is my number 12 because Mark Andrews is probably not going to play. And if he does, I will be very surprised. And in fact, I'll never play him in Week 17 if even I had the opportunity, because I do believe with this offense running their second string quarterback, running back, they will run their second string tight end. Hayden Hurst will be given the opportunity to start this week with Nick Boyle. And Hayden Hurst is the better receiving tight end of the two. And the way that this offense works, it's not like they're changing their offense. They may run a more vanilla scheme this week because of the fact that it's just a wash game. But again, we have to understand that the tight end position is very, very, very important in this offense, and they're going to see a lot of targets. And I do expect Hayden Hurst to potentially have himself a decent game here. He's a very sneaky, sleeper, hidden gem-esque kind of play this week, and that's who closes out my top 12. This is the last tight end video for the 2019 fantasy football season, closing out Week 17's tight end rankings and starter sits and matchups, all that kind of jazz. I want to thank everybody for watching. I appreciate you guys spending your time here today. Happy holidays. Continue. If you don't check out another video until Sunday, that 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, that'll be the live stream for those of you who are looking to get questions answered for Week 17. Come join us. Enjoy it. Should be fun then. Until next time, guys, I appreciate you guys, and thank you very much. Happy holidays. See you guys. Peace.